versus James Egan Holmes, case number 12CR 1522. The record should reflect that Mr. Holmes is present with his attorneys and the prosecutors are present as well. Are you folks ready for the jury?
Very briefly, one thing to put on the record. Your court staff provided us a label that says 10 VCN that apparently was attached to a juror's foot. We have determined the origin of this is that it was contained on the plastic that was covering the U-line bin that the evidence items were in, so it is not related to an item of evidence.
Okay, thank you. Talk about careful staff. All right, anything from the defense? No? Okay, let's bring him in, please. Please be seated. The record should reflect that the jury has joined us again. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a good lunch. Great. Call your next witness, please. Ms. Tish McGuire.
The people call Amanda Teves.
Good afternoon. Could I have your right hand so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first and last names?
Amanda Marie Teves, Amandateves.
And how do you spell your middle name?
Marie. Sorry.
Ms. Tish McGuire, you may proceed.
Were you at the Century 16 movie theater in Aurora, Colorado on July 19th of 2012?
Yes,
Did that go into the early morning hours of July 20th of 2012?
it did.
Why were you at the movies that day?
Alex really loved Batman and all superheroes for that matter, but he loved it and was really excited to see the new movie, so we decided to go that evening.
And who is Alex?
He's my boyfriend. Him and I met at DU where we went to school.
And what were you studying in school?
We were studying counseling, and we went that night with a few friends from our program.
And what are the full names of everyone that you went to the movies with that night?
We went with Craig Enland and Caitlin Petticord.
And what's Alex's last name?
Teves.
What'd you do when you got to the movie theater?
We got there a little early because we knew it'd be crowded, so we sat there, me, him, and Craig, and played Settlers of Catan on our phones, just played the game until the movie started.
And how did you go about choosing your seats that night?
When we walked in, Alex kind of took the lead. He was so excited and kind of ran up the stairs to just figure out the best spot for us to watch it. So,
Your Honor, if I may approach the witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 1172.
Yes.
This is yours, Catherine, or is it Dave? Do you recognize that document?
yes,
All right, what is that a document of?
of the movie theater.
And did you locate on that document where you had been seated that night on July 20th of 2012?
Yes,
Does it fairly and accurately represent what you remember from the movie theater on July 20th in 2012?
yes.
Your Honor, at this time I would move for the admission of People's Exhibit 1172.
No objection.
And for the record, this is a diagram, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, without objection, Exhibit P-TR-1172 is admitted and may be published.
If I could please have 1172. All right. And could you describe for the jury where you were seated that night?
About 3 rows down from the top, closer to the right-hand side.
And what was the order in which you were seated?
It was me, and then Alex in the middle, and Craig. Craig on the other side, and then Caitlin to the other side of him.
All right. At some point in time, did your movie begin that night?
Yeah, the preview started.
And do you remember anything about what happened during the previews?
Yeah, I remember that I knew Alex wasn't going to want to be affectionate or anything with me during the movie, that he'd want to really focus on the movie.
Excuse me, please. Your Honor, can we approach?
Yes. The objection is sustained in part and overruled in part. Go ahead.
All right. What do you remember about what you said to Alex before when you were in the middle of the previews?
That I asked him for one last kiss.
Were you able to get that one last kiss?
Yeah.
Now, at some point in time, did your movie begin?
Yeah, just after that.
And what happened in your movie?
Not long after it started, I saw a can of some sort being thrown from one side of the movie theater.
What do you remember after you saw that can being thrown?
It made a noise as it flew across the room, and then there was just kind of like smoke and stuff coming from it, but people stood up to kind of see what it was, because no one knew really.
What do you remember happening next in the movie theater after that?
just after that, then I started seeing flashing lights and thought it was fireworks. It sounded like fireworks coming from the same place.
And what did you do after you saw what you thought were fireworks at the time?
At first, I didn't know what was going on, but Alex did, and he put his arm around me and pulled me down to the ground.
What happened when you got down on the ground?
I was just really confused. I kept asking what was happening, and Alex just kept shushing me and saying it was going to be okay.
What happened after Alex was telling you it's going to be okay?
At one point, I was so confused, I looked up even, and he pulled me back down. And then he was still saying the same thing over and over to me until I heard someone yelling that they'd been hit.
What do you remember after you heard that?
I thought it was Craig. I thought that was Alex saying that Craig had been hurt. And then I looked down at the ground, at my hands, and I realized they were just in a pool of blood.
What do you remember after that?
That I yelled for Alex, and I started shaking his tummy, but he wasn't answering me. I just kept shaking him and calling his name, but he wasn't answering me.
And at that point in time, could you see any wounds on Alex?
I looked up and I saw Craig after that. There was nothing I could see with Alex, but I looked at Craig and I knew something was really wrong when I looked at Craig.
Why did you know something was really wrong when you looked at Craig?
Because his face was, it was covered in blood, and I could tell that Alex had been hit in the head because of what else was on his face.
And what else was on Craig's face?
It was sorry.
Okay, take a moment.
The flesh of Alex. I don't know how else.
So after you see Craig and you see that, what do you do?
I didn't want to leave. Craig was reaching his hand out to me and telling me to go, and the people behind me were telling me to go too, and I didn't want to leave him there.
So what'd you do?
I told Craig no at first, and he said, no, we have to go, and so I grabbed Craig's hand, but I grabbed Alex's hand too. I wanted to try and take him with me.
Were you able to take him with you?
No. I had to run out with Craig holding his hand, and I had to drop Alex's hand.
Your Honor, if I may approach the witness with what's previously been admitted as People's Exhibit 2653.
Yes.
And object under 401 and 403.
Oh, at this time, she's just asking to approach, so you can approach.
Thank you, Your Honor. Right. Ms. Teves, do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
Who is that a photograph of?
It's Alex.
Is that the person that you went to the movie theater with on July 20th of 2012?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I would ask the court to publish People's Exhibit 2653.
And you object?
Yes, sir.
All right, the objection is overruled, but publish it briefly.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I could have 2653. Ms. Teves, did you ever see Alex Teves alive again after July 20th of 2012?
No.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, sir.
It looks like the jury may have a question for you, so please give us a moment, okay?
Okay.
Would counsel please approach? The jury has submitted a question that I have found based on the rules of evidence and other applicable rules of law is appropriate. The question is, can you please tell us again what your relationship was to Alex Teves?
He's my boyfriend.
Okay. Any follow-up questions, Ms. Tish McGuire?
Yes, Your Honor. Did you legally change your name to Amanda Teves? And please just answer yes or no.
Yes.
Any follow-up questions from you, Ms. Brady? All right, may this witness be released from her subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you need these?
Call your next witness, please.
The people called Craig Enland.
Good afternoon. Can I have you raise your right hand for me so that I can administer an oath? You solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please be seated. Please tell us your full name and spell your first and last names.
Craig Enland, C-R-A-I-G. Last name is E-N-L-U-N-D.
Ms. Dishmaguire, you may proceed.
Were you at the Century 16 movie theater on July 19th of 2012 in Aurora, Colorado?
I was.
Did that go into the early morning of July 20th, 2012?
Yes.
Why were you going to the movies that day?
We loved the Batman movies. Alex was a huge superhero fan. I loved all of the Marvel movies. Had gone to a few of them for the midnight showings. So we were really excited about seeing it.
Who did you go to the movies with that day?
Alex Teves, Amanda Teves Lindgren, and Caitlin Petticord.
How did you know those people?
From graduate school at University of Denver. We were in the counseling psychology program together.
What time did you end up going to the movies that night?
It was I believe the 12:05 showing of Batman. I think maybe we got there about 11:30 or so.
What did you do while you were waiting for the movie to begin?
We just kind of sat around, played games on our phone. Yeah, that was it.
At some point in time, did your movie begin that night?
It did.
What happened during your movie?
I don't know how long in, but I saw something fly across the room. Seemed like everybody kind of leaned over to look at what it was. I never really figured out what it was at the time. And then from the corner, thought I heard like firecrackers, and figured that somebody was playing a prank. Everyone was excited. It was a big show. I figured someone was being stupid and playing a prank, and fairly quickly realized that it was gunfire. I could see flashes coming from the guns, like we've all seen on TV, and we hit the ground.
Do you remember after you hit the ground?
I remember laying on my right side, pulling Caitlin down. She was kind of towards my feet, and I was laying next to Alex, trying to look out from between the seats to kind of see what was happening. And at some point, there was a loud and like forceful something that hit nearby. It felt like something hit the seat really, really hard. And I saw Alex slump to the ground. Amanda started screaming his name and shaking him. It was about then that obviously I realized what was going on at that point, that there's gunfire, and I don't know whether consciously or subconsciously I knew that Alex was dead and that we had to get out of there. I grabbed Amanda and said, we need to get out of here, and we ran out.
Now, had you recognized at that point in time if you had been injured?
No, I didn't.
So while you were outside of the theater, did someone alert you to the fact that maybe you had some injuries?
Yes, while we were out in the parking lot, I kind of had sat Caitlin and Amanda down on a curb somewhere, and I kept going out to try to find someone who could kind of tell me what was going on. see if I could find a police officer or EMS person to find out where Alex might be being taken or how we could find out how he was. And I kept having people say, you're injured, you need help. And I didn't think that I was, so I would tell them, no, I'm fine, I'm just trying to find out information. Eventually, when they started kind of separating us out to transport people, somebody finally grabbed me and said, hey, you have shrapnel in you, you need to get help. And I think at that point, because they were ready to take, someone else would take Amanda and Caitlin, I finally realized, okay, I can let someone take me.
Were you transported in an ambulance?
I was.
What do you remember about that ambulance ride?
The paramedic in the ambulance was cleaning me off a little bit, wiping some of the blood and stuff from my face. I remember at one point kind of turning to my right, and there was a panel of medical equipment with kind of a glass or plastic case, and I could see my reflection in it, and I could see bits of something on my head, on my face, and I thought it was Alex's brain. And I asked the paramedic what it was, and she said that it probably wasn't that it was pieces of fat. But either way, it was pieces of Alex.
What hospital were you transported to?
Parker Adventist.
What happened when you got to the hospital?
They took me in there and started checking me out for injuries. The detective came in and interviewed me, and they, after doing some x-rays, removed a small metal fragment from below my left eye.
Your Honor, if I may approach the witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibits 2967, 2968, 2969, 2970, 2971, and 1122.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Enland, do you recognize the person in that photograph?
Yes, it's me.
Does that fairly and accurately represent your injuries on July 20th of 2012?
For the most part, yes. I had been cleaned up a little bit in the ambulance on the way to the hospital prior to these being taken. I had more blood and pieces of plastic, especially on my face.
All right, if you could turn to the next exhibit, and first please tell us what exhibit number it is.
I'm sorry?
You could look at the next photograph and then tell us what the number on it is.
2971,
And what does that photograph depict?
the left side of my face.
Does that fairly and accurately depict your injuries on July 20th of 2012?
Yes, other than being cleaned up, like I mentioned.
If you could turn to the next photograph, please. And what does that photograph depict?
My left arm,
All right, and what number is that?
2969.
And does that picture fairly and accurately represent the injuries to your arm on July 20th of 2012?
Yes,
If you could please turn to the next exhibit and tell us what number it is.
2968.
All right, and what does that photograph depict?
My left shoulder.
And does that picture fairly and accurately represent your injuries on July 20th of 2012?
Yes,
And if you could turn to the next photograph, please. And could you tell us that number, please?
2970.
And does that photograph fairly and accurately represent your injuries on July 20th of 2012?
It does, yes.
And if you could turn to one more picture or just the diagram?
Diagram.
Okay. And do you recognize that diagram?
Yes.
All right, and do you recall making some notations on that diagram yourself?
Yes, I listed the numbers where the four of us were seated.
All right, and does that fairly and accurately represent, to the best of your memory, where you were seated on July 20th of 2012?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I would move for the admittance of People's Exhibits 2967, 2968, 2969, 2970, 2971, and 1122.
Any objection? No. All right, without objection, P-TR 2967, 2968, 2969, 2970, 2971, and 1122 are admitted and may be published.
If I could please have 2967. All right, if you could tell the jury what this represents.
Me?
All right. And could you point out some injuries on yourself at that point? Could you see any?
Yes, on the left side of my face, you can still, I think, see some plastic in there. You can see some scrapes on my left shoulder.
All right, if I could have 2968. Great, describe for the jury what you're seeing there.
My left shoulder and some kind of wound on my left shoulder. I never was able to figure out exactly how I got that.
I could have 2969. Right, what does that describe?
My left arm with pieces of plastic and cuts and scrapes on it.
2970. 2971. All right, so what is represented here in 2970?
My left hand and a scrape on my middle finger.
I could have 2971. And what does this represent?
The left side of my face. You can see some of the bits of plastic still around my ear and jawline and on my cheek.
If I could please have 1122. All right. And if you could describe for the jury where you notated on that where you were seated.
A couple rows from the back of the theater towards the right side as we're facing the screen.
Your Honor, if I may approach the witness, what's already been admitted as 2653.
Yes.
Thank you. Do you recognize the person in that photograph?
I do.
Who is that person?
Alex Teves?
Is that the person you were with at the theater on July 20th of 2012?
It is.
Have you seen Mr. Teves alive since that date?
No, I have not.
I have no further questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
Is there any cross-examination, Mr. King?
No, thank you.
There may be a question from the jury, so give us a moment, please. Thank you. Would counsel please approach? Sir, the jury has submitted some questions that I have found are appropriate under the rules of evidence and other applicable rules of law. The first question is, was Alex's head above the seat backs or below that level when hit? And answer it only if you know.
It was below the level of the seat back.
The next question is, did you observe anything in the theater, such as where the gunman moved through the theater after the gunshot started? Only if you know.
I did not.
The next question is, do you have any idea of how long the shooting lasted? Again, only if you know.
No, I do not.
And lastly, did you see the gunman exit the theater? Again, only if you know.
I did not.
Any follow-up questions based on those questions, Ms. Tish McGuire?
No, Your Honor.
Any follow-up questions from you, Mr. King? May this witness be released from his subpoena.
Yes, please. Thank you, Your Honor.
Any objection?
Without objection.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Call your next witness, please.
Jeanette Guscott.
Can I have you raise your right hand? Minister, an oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm on the penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please be seated. Please tell us your full name and spell your first and last names.
Jeanette K. Dove Guscott, Guscott.
And how do you spell your first and middle names?
Janette Kay, and Dove, Dove.
Thank you. Ms. Pearson?
Ms. Guscott, where do you work?
I work for the Aurora Police Department Crime Laboratory.
What do you do for them?
I am a senior criminalist.
What does that mean that you do in your daily work?
My assignment is as a question document examiner, and I am also the crime lab's quality manager.
How long have you worked for the Aurora Police Department?
Almost 27 years.
As part of your duties, were you asked to work on certain things related to the shooting that occurred at the Century 16 Theater?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
What did your duties consist of in relationship to what occurred at the theater?
I was asked early in the morning to process the subject, and which includes collecting GSR and photography, and then later in the day, I also collected evidence from the FBI.
Let's start first with your interactions with the defendant on July 20th. What time did you come into contact with the defendant?
At 7:55 a.m.
Where was that?
It was in the third-story interview room.
At
at headquarters at Aurora Police.
It is at the building that's on Alameda, not very far from the theater?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Can you describe the person you saw, what he looked like at that time?
When I walked into the room, there was a male subject sitting on the left-hand side of the table with his back to me, and the first thing I noticed was bright orange hair. He did not have on a shirt, and he had on navy blue shorts and one sock on his left foot.
At that time, were his hands covered in paper bags?
Yes, ma'am, they were.
Would you recognize the person if you saw him again?
Yes, I do.
Is he in the courtroom today?
Yes, he is.
Can you identify him, please, by where he's sitting and what he's wearing?
He is seated at the defendant's table, and he's wearing a light blue shirt. He no longer has the orange hair, and he has a beard.
Your Honor, would you let the record reflect identification subject to cross?
The record will so reflect.
Now, what did you do with him when you met him at about 7:55 in the morning on July 20th?
I approached him and explained to him that I would be collecting a gunshot residue kit and what that entails, and that I would also be taking photographs.
Did he interact with you?
Yes, ma'am, he did. Part of the gunshot residue kit requires the name and his date of birth on the front of the envelope, and he spelled his name for me.
Did he give you his date of birth?
I'm sorry, I don't remember that. I do remember him spelling his last name.
When he talked to you, did he look at you?
Yes.
Did he seem to have any difficulty understanding what you were asking of him?
None at all.
I'm going to hand you what has been marked as People's Exhibit 1095 for demonstrative purposes. Do you know what that item is?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And what is it?
It is the gunshot residue collection kit that we use at the police department.
Now, is that a new, unused, sealed one?
It is. It is a prepackaged and sealed kit.
If you could hold it up and explain to the jury what we're looking at.
Okay, this is the kit. We receive it sealed from the company, and it contains directions. It contains an information sheet, a set of gloves, 4 tabs, and it contains evidence seal.
I'm going to ask you to open that and explain what the contents are and explain how you collect GSR.
This is the piece of paper that contains the directions on how to use the contents of the envelope.
They can't, some jurors are having a difficult time seeing. Can you stand up, ma'am?
Absolutely.
Is that better?
Oh, I'm going to I'll hold each one of them up. This is the direction sheet.
And if you can make sure that you speak into the microphone somehow too. And there's a handheld one there as well, though maybe that's not particularly helpful to hold these up with. But
This is the information sheet, which contains the collecting agency, the name, the date and time that shooting occurred, the type of firearm, the subject's information of whom we collected it from.
do you fill all of that out
I do.
when you collect GSR?
As much information as I have at the time that I'm collecting it. And then there are 4 tabs. There is one for the right hand, one for the left hand, one for the face, and one is a control. And each one of these is sealed, and it's just a little tab that you press against the skin to collect the gunshot residue from the skin.
Is each one of those labeled with right hand, left hand, face?
It is. It says right hand on this one, left hand, face, and the control is sealed.
And what is the control?
The control is what the examiner at CBI would use to make sure that there's no contamination of the tabs.
Should there be anything in the control?
No, nothing.
So it shouldn't test for any GSR?
Right.
And that would tell you that your kit started out as clean?
Yes, ma'am. And before you do the collection, gloves. So they
So
include the
all of
gloves.
those things are in the kit?
Yes, ma'am. And then the evidence seal that we put on, once everything is collected, it's placed back in the bag and sealed with the evidence.
Okay, thank you. Do you explain the process of how you collect GSR to a person that you're collecting GSR from?
Yes, I do, because I want them to be more comfortable with the process and to know that there's nothing on the tabs that is going to hurt them.
Did you do that with the defendant in this case?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Did he appear to understand what you were talking about?
Yes,
Did he respond appropriately to you?
he did.
Did you in fact collect GSR from him?
I did.
I'm going to hand you what has been marked as People's Exhibit 383. Do you recognize what that is?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
What is it?
Exhibit 383 is the gunshot residue kit that I collected from James E. Holmes on the morning of July 20th.
Your Honor, I would move for the admittance of People's Exhibit 383.
Is there any objection, Mr. King?
No.
Without objection, P-TR-383 is admitted.
Now, is this the same kind of kit as what we've just looked at?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
In order to collect the GSR, did you have to take the paper bags off of his hands?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
I'm going to hand you what have been marked as People's Exhibit 382 and 381. Do you recognize those?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
What are they?
The exhibit marked 382 is the paper bag that was taped to the right hand of Mr. Holmes.
And 381?
Is the paper bag that was taped to the left hand of Mr. Holmes.
Your Honor, I would move for the admittance of People's Exhibits 381 and 382.
Any objection?
No, sir.
Without objection, P-TR-381 and 382 are admitted.
So you took the paper bags off of his hands,
Mhm.
and then you collected the GSR. Is that the order you did things in?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do next?
I took photographs.
I'm going to approach you what have been marked as People's Exhibits 2110 and 2111. Do you recognize those photographs?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
How do you recognize them?
These are two of the photographs that I took of Mr. Holmes on the morning of 7/20.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admittance of People's Exhibits 2110 and 2111.
Any objection? No. Without objection, P-TR-2110 and 2111 are admitted and may be published.
And could I have 2110, please? And 2111. Thank you. Now, you indicated these were some of the photographs that you took. Did you take more photographs than this?
Yes, ma'am, I took a total of 12.
What is the purpose of taking photographs?
To document how the person appears at the time of processing and to document any injuries that they might present.
Did you observe any injuries on the defendant?
No, and I asked him if he had any, and he said no.
Once you took photographs, did you also collect his clothing?
I did.
I'm going to hand you what has been marked as People's Exhibits 384, 305, and 385. Starting first with Exhibit 384, which
Okay.
is this an item that you collected from the defendant?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Your Honor, I would move for admittance of People's Exhibit 384.
Any objection, Mr. King?
No.
Without objection, P-TR-384 is admitted.
What is Exhibit 384?
384 is a pair of white socks.
Now, you indicated when you first saw him that he had one white sock on?
Yes, and then I left the room, and when I came back, he had the other one on.
And both of those socks are in that package?
Yes, ma'am.
Turning next to People's Exhibit 385.
Okay.
Is that an item that you collected on July 20th from the defendant?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, it was on a chair in the interview room. He was not actually wearing it.
Your Honor, I would move for the admittance of People's Exhibit 385.
Any objection?
No, sir.
Without objection, P-TR-385 is admitted.
What is Exhibit 385?
It is a gray T-shirt with a Nike emblem on it.
And Exhibit 305? Is that another item that you collected from the defendant on July 20th?
Yes, ma'am. This is a pair of navy blue shorts.
Your Honor, I would move for the admittance of People's Exhibit 305.
Any objection?
No, sir.
Without objection, P-TR-305 is admitted.
Now, where were these collected?
The shirt and socks were collected from the interview room, and the shorts were collected by an officer over at the jail and given to me.
Were you standing outside of the jail cell at the time?
Yes, I was.
I'll take all of those from you. Now, among the items that you collected were bags, just paper bags.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know why the police would put paper bags on a person's hands?
The paper bags are put over the hands to protect the gunshot residue. It's a very volatile, minute piece of evidence, so we tape the paper bags over the hands to contain the evidence.
How long did you spend with the defendant?
Less than 15 minutes.
Have you collected evidence from other defendants over the years of being a criminalist?
Yes, ma'am.
Relevance.
Have you,
Hold on, there's an objection. What's the relevance? Here, why don't counsel approach? Okay, the objection is sustained in part and overruled in part. Go ahead, Ms. Pearson.
Ms. Guscott, have you dealt with other defendants over your 26 and a half years with APD where you had to take photographs or collect GSR?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
In your experience with the defendant on July 20th of 2012, was there anything about his behavior that was different or unusual compared to your experiences with other defendants?
No, not at all.
Now, you also indicated that as part of your duties, you were involved in processing evidence that had been collected from the scene.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to hand you what has been marked as People's Exhibit 708. Do you recognize that item?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And what is it?
It is an iPod, and I incorrectly called it a cell phone on my property list.
But it's an iPod?
Yes,
Is that an iPod that you collected on the afternoon of July 20th of 2012 from an item that was brought to the lab?
yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, I would move for the admittance of People's Exhibit 708.
Is there any objection, Mr. King?
No.
All right, without objection, P-TR-708 is admitted.
Now, where did you find this iPod?
The iPod was found in the front pocket of the tactical trousers.
Were those trousers that had been brought by the FBI collected from the back of the theater?
Yes,
In addition, were you, among the items that you were brought a clear-out canister from the back of the theater?
yes, ma'am.
Did you have the opportunity to look at it and determine whether it was a full or spent canister of tear gas?
I believe it was a full, but I honestly don't recall.
Okay. Thank you.
Cross-examination, Mr. King?
Yes, please, briefly. How are you?
Good, sir.
I just have a few questions for you here. And I want to start very briefly with your contact with the person you've identified here as Mr. Holmes on the morning of July 20th, 2012.
Okay.
And you indicated that was at the Aurora Police Department, right?
Yes, sir.
And that was in an interview room that was located on the third floor in the detectives' major crimes unit. Is that right?
It's not actually in the major crimes unit. It's at the other end of the hall.
Were you aware when you entered that room, and you went there around 8 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yes, sir.
Were you aware how long Mr. Holmes had been in that room when you encountered him there?
No idea.
And you described how he appeared when he appeared there before you, and you indicated that he had those paper bags on his hands that were People's Exhibits 382 and 381, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you know how long he'd had those paper bags on his hands at that point?
No, sir, I do not.
You indicated that from what you were able to observe, and you were with him for a fairly brief period of time. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, sir.
And you went there with a specific purpose, which is to gather this evidence. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You're a crime scene technician, or you're operating in that capacity when you went there that morning. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You're not a psychiatrist.
No, sir.
You're not a psychologist, are you?
No, sir.
You have no specific training in dealing with people who have psychotic illnesses like schizophrenia, do you?
No, I do not.
You indicated that the appearance and behavior from what you had to do was normal. And I wanted to ask you one question about that. Can I have People's Exhibit 2111, please? This is one of the photographs that you took of Mr. Holmes that morning around 8 o'clock a.m., is that correct?
It is, sir.
And does this fairly and accurately depicts the way his face and head area looked during that period of time?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you this, ma'am. Do you recall his eyes being that dilated, his pupils being that dilated during the period of time that you were with him?
I can say that this accurately reflects how he appeared to me.
Okay. Thank you. You can take that down. You collected from him gunshot residue. Gunshot residue is a residue that forms on surfaces that may be in the area or proximity to where a firearm is fired, correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
And I understand you may not be an expert in gunshot residue itself, but you do have enough training to know what you need to know to accurately collect it. Is that right?
I do.
And you're aware that gunshot residue, when it falls on a surface, can easily be transferred from one surface to another, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's the purpose for putting the bags on someone's hands,
It
correct?
is.
And if someone has clothing on, it may settle on clothing, for example.
Yes, sir.
Were you aware whether Mr. Holmes had gloves on, or did you collect any gloves from him that night?
I did not collect any.
Okay. And you sampled his hands and his face for gunshot residue, correct?
Yes, sir.
And again, the purpose for that would be to determine whether or not he was in the vicinity of the discharge of a firearm.
Yes, sir.
When you also processed some evidence that was collected by the FBI in the back of the theater building, is that correct?
At the exterior of the theater building, yes, sir.
Correct. Thank you for correcting me. In the back exterior of the theater building, and just so that you know, we heard testimony from an FBI agent this morning about that collection. The purpose for you repackaging those items is that the Aurora Police Department was going to maintain the custody of those items, and so that you wanted to repackage them pursuant to your own protocol. Fair to say? In the course of strike that. Judge, may I approach the evidence table here real briefly?
Yes.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ma'am, I'm going to hand you what's been admitted as People's Exhibit, hold on, I'm old, 687. Can you take a look at that for me, please?
Okay.
People's Exhibit 687 is a live round of 5.56 millimeter rifle ammunition that was recovered outside the rear of the theater, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's the condition that you encountered that piece of evidence in when you repackaged it in the packaging it's in now, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you see on that exhibit there that there's a dent in the shell casing on the side of the bullet?
Yes, I do.
Do you recall that from when you processed the evidence or not?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. May I approach the evidence again?
Yes.
Your Honor? Ma'am, I'm going to hand you what has been admitted as People's Exhibit 693. Exhibit 693, ma'am, and just confirm on your paperwork if you need to, or on the evidence envelope,
Yes, sir.
was a 30-round rifle magazine recovered from the outside rear of the theater, correct?
Yes, sir.
Also contained in that exhibit are 31 rounds of 5.56 millimeter ammunition, which were located inside the 30-round magazine, correct?
It would appear so.
Thank you. I have no other questions, and I'm happy to collect those items of evidence from you now.
Any redirect, Ms. Pearson?
No, Your Honor.
It looks like the jury has some questions for you. Give us a moment, please. Thank you. Would counsel please approach? Okay, the jury has submitted some questions. I have found that at least some of the questions submitted are appropriate under the rules of evidence and other applicable rules of law. And so I am going to ask you these questions now. The first question is, were the defendant's pupils dilated and or his eyes bloodshot, if you know?
The pupils were dilated. I don't recall that the eyes were bloodshot.
The next question is, do you know where the other sock was the first time that you were in the room?
I do. It was on the floor next to the chair where he was seated.
The next question is, did the defendant at any time appear confused and or unaware of what was happening?
No, he did not. He was very, I'm sorry, the word went right out of my head. He talked normally to me.
The next question is, can you have the witness spell her whole name again? Could you please spell your whole name again?
The first name is Janette, Janette, middle name Kay, and my maiden name was Dove, Dove, and my married name is Gus Scott, Guscott.
Now, can you spell it backwards? No, I'm just kidding. The next question is, do you check to see if detained persons have contacts or contact lenses in their eyes when you take their personal belongings?
No, I do not.
The next question is, did the defendant have contacts in when you processed him, if you know?
I do not know.
And the last question, did you find any eyeglasses in the defendant's possession?
Nothing that I collected or processed that day.
Any follow-up questions based on those questions, Ms. Pearson?
No, Your Honor.
Any follow-up questions from you, Mr. King?
Two, please. Ma'am, you were asked about the sock by one of the jurors, and I think that you testified on direct examination that when you first encountered Mr. Holmes, he had only one sock on, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then you left the room, and when you came back, he had both socks on.
Yes, sir.
Do you know whether he had to be told to put the sock on?
I do not.
Next question is about, in speaking to Mr. Holmes, you said that he spoke normally to you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you spoke to him about the information you needed to get for the GSR form, right?
Yes, sir.
Which would be his name,
Yes,
date of birth,
yes,
address?
no.
And that was really all you spoke to him about, wasn't it?
Yes, he was very cooperative with me.
Thank you. No other questions.
All right, may this witness be released from our subpoena?
No, Your Honor, we would continue to hold her on subpoena for the
Okay.
future, possibly.
So she's subject to recall then?
She is.
All right. Okay, ma'am, you may be called again by the people. I don't know whether you're under the defense's subpoena, but
I am.
you're free to go for now, but you may be back at some point. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Would counsel approach to discuss a scheduling matter, please? All right, members of the jury, it's about 3 o'clock, so let's go ahead and take our afternoon break. Please remember that all my advisements apply during this break. Enjoy the break, and I'll see you back here in 20 minutes. To reflect that the jury has exited the courtroom, everyone may be seated. Is there anything that we need to talk about before we go on break from the people? No?
No, Your Honor.
On behalf of the defense?
No, Judge.
Okay, enjoy the break. I'll see you back in 20 minutes.